Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are considering Ishwarpranidhana of Niyamas. And at this point in time, I feel like saying that the Sanatana Dharma has considered that the divinity is meant to be loud, and divinity is not meant to be afraid of. It is not that almighty, omnipresent entity is there to dare us. That entity is meant for us to be loving it. Bhakti, prem, love. And if it is to be loud, it must be appealing. Now, if it is to be appealing, the appeal depends upon different levels of consciousness, different constitution of the consciousness. And the divinity is not just meant for mankind. Divinity is meant for entire universe. It is meant for all kinds of life forms, human to subhuman to superhuman. And therefore, one divinity is in several forms so that it could be appealing to various strata of emotional aspects in mind, intellectual aspects in mind. The life is always having an underlying factor of Sanskars, Vasana and Vritti. So divinity is meant for every kind of being, which is in different strata, intellectually, emotionally, in the aspects of vasanas, subliminal tendencies, and therefore the divinity cannot be in one singular form. And every kind of upasana is made available by the Sanatana Dharma. Because otherwise we come across that some of the religions, isms, they believe that the divinity is in one form, that is formlessness. Now everyone cannot be falling in love with the formless. There might be few people who fall in love with formless. So therefore the divinity is in several forms, infinite forms, Ananta Rupa, Ananta Nama, Ananta Leela, Ananta Avatar. So divinity manifests in infinite forms, infinite names, infinite glories, infinite characteristics, infinite attributes. Rather than dogmatically holding that divinity is only in one form, and more often that form is formlessness. So as sometimes back I had said, the divinity is not subject matter of isms. Divinity is not subject matter of religions. Unfortunately, they have hijacked the subject. The divinity is subject matter of metaphysics and mysticism. Anyway, therefore the divinity in the Vedic parampara, Vedic literature, is found to be in several forms. Divinity is Ananta Koti Brahmanda Nayaka. Divinity is Anadi Ananta. Divinity is also described as Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, subtlest of the subtle, smallest of the small, subtlest of the subtle, to greatest of the great. So also we have discussed in the chapter of divinity in the first chapter, where the Agamas declare the 5 forms para, vyuha, vibhava, archa, antaryami, that these are 5 forms of divinity. The divinity is saguna, nirguna and even beyond. The divinity is vyakta, vyakta and beyond. The divinity is murta, murta and beyond. The divinity is savishesha, nirvishesha and beyond. The divinity is savayava, niravayava and beyond. It is rupa as well as arupa. And this is the true view about divinity. Like Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, smallest of the small and largest of the large. Then we discuss about the para, vyuha, vibhava, archa, antaryami, which is the concept that Pancharatra Agama has given, where incidentally we find the source for Patanjali's treatise. So also it has saguna, nirguna and transcendent. That is with qualities and without qualities and even transcendent. Vyakta, vyakta, manifest and unmanifest and transcendent. Murta, murta, that is with form and without form and transcendent. Savishesha and nirvishesha, that is particularized and unparticularized and beyond. Savayava and niravayava, that is with parts and without parts and beyond, transcendent. So this is how divinity has been described in Upanishads and in Vedic texts. The divinity should be appealing insofar as mankind is concerned from child-like life form. Now what appeals to child? So something that appeals to child must also include the divinity. What appeals to teenagers is distinct than what appeals to children. So it should also include divinity in the form that it would be appealing to teenagers. What appeals to youth is different than what appeals to children and teenagers. So there must be divinity, form of divinity that would be appealing youth. Then there are adults similarly. Then there are older people. So we know that in various stages of life which man goes through, human being goes through, there are different appealing things, appealing factors, and appeals. The divinity must be available in every class of appeals to mankind. So there are sattvic people, rajasic people, tamasic people, people with sattvic dispositions, people with rajasic disposition, people with tamasic disposition. As we have seen the human being in different age groups. So what appeals to a child, teenager, youth, adult, old would be different. What appeals to a sattvic person, a rajasic person, a tamasic person would be different. So in every category there must be the divinity should come so that the divinity will be appealing. Then only the God can be said to be meant for one and all. The God cannot be in just one form and with one name and then expect it to be appealing, everyone to be loving it. So it should be appealing to women of every age group, every strata of consciousness, every disposition. Men, it should be appealing to men. So it should be appealing to Gnya and Agnya. Gnya means intelligent and Agnya means unintelligent. So from Abala Vruddha, including everyone from being infant and child to very, very, very old. Abala Vruddha. Vruddhatishaya. Vruddhatishaya. This women, folk and men, it must be appealing to everyone. Again, they could be rajasic or tamasic or sattvic or combinations thereof. The divinity must be appealing to every kind of fabric of consciousness. And it's not only for human beings, it is also meant for subhuman beings. We will not be able to imagine what is appealing to subhumans. And we perhaps do not know the form of divinity, and that's why it is often said that the divinity in toto cannot be really perceived by mankind. Because divinity is appealing to tiniest creature, to large creature, any kind of life here and life hereafter. The divinity is not only meant for terrestrial plane, it's also meant for all the planes, extraterrestrial planes. So what would be appealing there is not known to us, and the God will be available in all those forms in order that divinity is appealing. So also Bhagavad Leela, what appeals to a child and what appeals to a young one, old one, what is called as the sport of divinity. The sport and sportiveness of divinity has to be appealing to every kind of being on every level and every strata and every class. And that is why it is said that divinity cannot be circumscribed by human intelligence. So it comes in countless forms. Divinity comes in countless forms and countless names. The divinity has to be sought after by you and me. And those who are below you and me, and those who are above you and me, and are lofty in nature compared to you and me. So divinity is meant for every strata of consciousness, every level of consciousness, every manifestation of consciousness, every fabric of consciousness. And the religions over the world have not understood this, and therefore they are dogmatic about the form of divinity, whether it is with form or without form. And that is unfortunate travesty. So the divinity will be sought after by you and me, someone like you and me, to Jnaneshwar, Vasishtha, Yajnavalkya, Vyasa. So, how and why will they seek? It is because of that form of divinity which appeals to their strata of consciousness. Why we will seek divinity is because of our strata of consciousness. Agnya to Mahapragnya. They will be seeking divinity. They are supposed to be having bhakti for divinity. So whether someone is sattvic or rajasic or tamasic, the bhakti should be available. And therefore, let me make an interesting submission here, that one Bhagwan Shri Krishna comes in several forms. So we know as Shri Krishna, then there is also form of the same deity as Bala Krishna, Gopala Krishna, Yogeshwara Krishna, Gopi Krishna. So there are so many forms of even that one deity like Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So Bala Krishna to Purushottam Krishna. This is how Krishna as divinity did manifest in his times. There are some people who have appeal for Sri Rama, some people have for Bhagwan Shiva, some people have for Devi, Shakti, Ganesha, Dattatreya, and countless forms of Vishnu. There are Amshavtar, there are Leela Avatar, there are Purna Avatars. If you understand the Avatar Rahasya. So also the concept of Brahma. You will come across Shabda Brahma, Nada Brahma, Parama Brahma, Mahad Brahma. Brahma comes in so many forms. So the Brahma will come in Sthula Sukshma forms, Vyakta Vyakta forms, Bindu Swarupa, Jyoti Swarupa, Vishwarupa, which comes in Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter. Because he is Ishvara for everyone. Then only the bhakti becomes probable, plausible and possible. And for one to really have inquisitiveness about what this divinity is, multifaceted, multiformed or formless, from formless to multiformed. So, in order to have little concept of it, Ishvara, we have scheme of things. Ishvara has been sought after by the sages and seers and saints in all different eras. but they have come to say one thing, that there must be satsanga, there must be sadhana sangha, there must be shastra sangha, there must be sadachar sangha, sadvichar sangha, sadhu sangha, jnana sangha, and kartavya nishtata, the duty mindedness. So all the Purva Suris, that is the great noble people of the time that has gone by, our predecessors, from time without beginning, the sadhus, the santa, the saintly people, they have been saying the same thing. If the Ishvara has to be sought after, it is by these measures which I just now mentioned. This is what is mentioned by Purva Suris, by the seers and sages and saints of all times. Now, let's slightly peep into reality. Even if the Yama-niyamas are strictly followed, and even if satsanga adi sangatraya is strictly adhered to, even if ahar vihara the chatushtya, the quadrant of ahar vihara achar vichar is also adhered to, embraced, and howsoever the divinity is convincing to us, yet there is a problem in the form of anadi klesha vasana, anadi karma vasana, anadi papa vasana. So it gets eclipsed. Even if you are convinced about the divinity, the role of divinity, even if you are convinced, yet we are caught in the mesh of anadi klesha vasana. So now you are aware of what is klesha and klesha vasana, since we dealt with the klesha topic earlier in the second chapter. So anadi karma vasana, we did consider the karma siddhanta, and therein we also took note of what is called as karma vasana and anadi papa vasana, tendency to be sinning. So these are the things which eclipse. We might be sometimes convinced about divinity, but then these things crop up and we end up doing what we should not be doing. I recall that what Duryodhana in Mahabharata conceded. Janami dharma nachame pravrutti, janami adharma nachame nivrutti. I know what is dharma, but I am not inclined to follow the dharma. I know what is adharma, but I cannot be weaned away from adharma. So janami dharma nachame pravrutti, janami adharma nachame nivrutti. Tvaya rishikesha rudhi sthitena yatha niyukto asmi tatha karomi. So he says, you are my indweller, so I do as you incline me to do. Yes, that's a problem that we will be confronting, we will be experiencing. And therefore, Patanjali has mentioned about adherence of anuvratas. So gradually we must adhere to anuvratas and take small dosages of the anuvratas, and then slowly we will be able to fight out the battle with anadi klesha vasana, anadi karma vasana, anadi papa vasana. And in order that Ishvara should be loved, the divinity should be loved, there is that concept of Ishvara Pujanam. And then in Vedic tradition there is that very much accepted aspect of image worship. However, there are many who are dead against image worshipping. They oppose the divinity being given a form, making the divinity savayava, or giving the divinity murtatvam. But then human mind needs it. If the human mind is to be induced, it is needed. So there is no point in holding to a dogma that the divinity is only like this, that is formless, as most of the religions believe. And they do not tolerate, they are intolerant about murti pujanam, image worshipping, etc. But this is not true. The image worshipping has not infiltrated the Vedic Dharma. It has been there in Puranas and Vedas. It can be found in the scriptures. So scriptures will postulate divinity in all those forms: savayava, niravayava, savishesha, nirvishesha, saguna, nirguna, sakar, nirakar, murta, murta, vyakta, vyakta, etc., etc. And it is also to be understood that the divinity is not an anthropomorphic concept as some of the thinkers of the West have deemed that way. As a matter of fact, man has been turned out through the imagination of divinity, and not that the divinity is imagined by the human mind. Anyway, the Brahma Tattva, as held in Vedic literatures, that also has come in several forms to suit various philosophies, even in Hinduism. There are several cults of Hinduism, monist to dualists. There are so many. Monist to dualist to monoistic dualist. So many branches are there. The Mayavadins, the most popular sect today in Vedic religion or Hinduism, they have concept of Maya. And they are called Mayavadins. The Mayavadins have ventured to postulate something called Shabala Brahma. So the Brahma itself has been tainted by the concept of Shabala Brahma, although they hold that the Brahma is immutable principle. And therefore they postulate that the tainted Brahma itself is Ishvara. So in different philosophies, these postulations have come. Mayavadins mention Ishvara, Patanjali mentions Ishvara. There is an ocean of difference in the idea of Ishvara in Mayavadins and concept of Ishvara, idea of Ishvara in Patanjali system. I recall a commentator on philosophical systems saying the divinity is not Sthalamariadita. It is not a spatialized entity. Ishvara is not a limited entity, not a spatialized entity, but it is Ananta. It is endless. So the philosophies have labored to turn out the Brahma Tattva with Tarka Shuddhata, logicality, Buddhi Yuktata, the intellectual rationalism, intellectual process. And in such mold, the Ishvara has been cast. So those who have Astikya Buddhi, their intelligence also accepts the concept of Ishvara and also gives room for Bhakti Avishkar and Prem Avishkar. So that's how the divinity is. And the Bharata Varsha has given so many forms of worship, so many kinds of what is called as dharma, to really seek the divinity. So there are tamomaya people to tamonyuna people, profusion of tamoguna to deficiency of tamoguna, proficiency of rajoguna to rarity of rajoguna, sattvamayata and sattva shunyata. So all the various strata of human consciousness has been considered and the worship forms have been given. There are countless worship forms in so-called Hinduism. So that's why it is very intriguing and interesting to understand the concept of divinity that has been postulated in Vedika Dharma. The divinity is not ekakar, ekavidha, but it is anekakar, anekavidha. From Nirakar to Vishveshwara, of the form of the entire universe, from formless to form, in the form of universe. Some faiths in Vedic religion relish the Rupatvam, while some relish Arupatvam. Some would like the Ishvara to be formful and some would like the Ishvara to be formless. So the both must be allowed, both must be embraced, and we should not be antagonizing anyone. In whatever form the divinity is accepted or accepted as formless entity, it is allowed in the dharma of Bharata Varsha. Because the divinity has to be loved. And what should be loved cannot be definite and fixed and certain. So, some people have relish for Saguna, some people have relish for Nirguna, concept of Ishvara. Some people have love and liking for Sakara and some Nirakara, some Savayava and some Niravayava. So the divinity must be made available in all those forms because it is universal deity. So if one form is improper for the divinity to be loud, even one name will not be proper for the divinity to be loud. Therefore, there are countless names. One deity has several names, what is called a Sahasranama concept. So Ananta Rupa, Ananta Nama is what is said about divinity. The Vedas have clearly postulated there is only one deity, right? Singular deity, but it has Ananta, Aganita, Amaryadita, Nama Rupa. And that's why the Vedic parampara is quite magnanimous. So it circumscribes all psyches and consciousnesses. We have a concept called, in vernacular, it is said, Koni Govinda Gya, Koni Gopala Gya. So Govinda is also acceptable, Gopala is also acceptable. Saguna, Nirguna and beyond is acceptable. This is what the saints have postulated. There is quite an amount of magnanimity in the philosophies that the saints have professed. Anyway, we have considered this Ishvara concept in the first chapter itself, where divinity was defined in those couple of sutras, few sutras. And we have also considered how Ishvara Upasana can be also carried out. So with all that, it is time now that we come to end the discussion on Ishwarpranidhana of Niyama. With that, we come to the end of Niyamas as well, 5 Niyamas. Because Ishwarpranidhana is the 5th Niyama. So with that we are now coming to a point where we can conclude on 5 Yamas and 5 Niyamas, which is the first and second limb of Ashtanga Yoga. Now we come to another topic which according to the text comes up. That is concept of Vitarka Badha. Yes, it is all very well to say that yamas should be followed, niyamas should be followed, but practical problem comes up that we are more prone to violate. We are more prone to violate. And Patanjali has considered this. He doesn't make a prescription that yamas should be followed and niyamas should be followed. He also gives us a revelation that more often we will be violating yamas and niyamas. We are inclined to do that. That is called Vitarka Badha. And therefore he makes us aware of the wreckage in yamas and wreckage in niyamas and tells us to take measures. So to be getting prepared to turn out measures for probable violation of yamas and niyamas is a very interesting topic that is going to come up. So that is the Vitarka Badha. What are Vitarkas? Ahimsa also is infected by himsa. So that is what we experience in our practical life. The Satya gets often infected by Asatya, Asteya by Steya, Brahmacharya by Abrahmacharya, Aparigraha by Parigraha, so Shaucha by Ashaucha, Santosha by Asantosha, Asantushta Vritti. Tapas more often gets infected by laziness and languor. Swadhyaya gets infected by Anadhyaya. and Ishwarpranidhana by Ishwarpranidhana or Anishwarpranidhana. So what are, in the counter position of yamas and niyamas, they are called vitarka badha, and Patanjali makes us aware of those and tries to describe those, tries to explain those, tries to tell why about those, and then what has to be done with those. So very interesting topic is going to come up. That is the topic of vitarka badha. But that will be for our next session. So enough for the time being. We have concluded niyamas with this session, Ishwarpranidhana with this session, and therefore niyamas with session, and also yama niyamas with this session. Now we proceed to the next topic of vitarka badha. So namaskar all of you.